and am admitting. Welcome, welcome everybody.
Hello.
We're so excited to see you all. We still have a few people coming in, so we will get rolling right away, but welcome. This is great. So if you are looking for the session on connecting classroom and career and talking about the partnership between our faculty at Ohio Wesleyan University in academic affairs and career connection, you are in the right place. So thank you. Wonderful. We are still admitting a few people. Marianne, would you mind getting us started and you can introduce yourself first?
Sure, sounds good. Hi, everybody. My name's Marianne Lewis Casado. I direct the French program, French and Francophone Studies program at Ohio Wesleyan University. And then I co-direct something called the Global Studies Institute and the Global Scholars Program. But actually today I'm here in my capacity as having partnered with Megan on transferable skills. And this goes back to an interest that I've had in professionalization and connecting coursework with meaningful work post-graduation that I've had really since graduate school. So that's why I'm here, and it's good to be here. I'm excited to tell you what we've been working on.
Wonderful. And I'm Megan Ellis. I am the Executive Director of Career Connection and also get to have some fun in our entrepreneurial center here. We have, over the last few years, really changed around how we even think about career and how we talk about it on campus and develop career within our students. We're going to dive into that, so I won't waste your time on that. But just very excited to be able to share what we're doing. You all will experience that Marianne and I love to have fun, and we have a really fun partnership. So we encourage questions. We would love to chat with you. We only have 30 minutes, and honestly, we could go on for the rest of the day about this because it is something that we personally have a lot of fun with and just really believe in. But let's dive in. We wanted to let you know kind of where we're going. So you can't really know where we're going if you don't know why we did this. So the context of what's going on in higher ed right now, we wanted to highlight that and how what we're talking about relates to those things. And then we're going to talk to you about how Career Connection is not the old career services. And then this whole idea of connecting classroom and career. What does that even mean? Why is it important? Why would academic affairs and faculty members even want to do this? And then how do you do it? So you can get through that whole process of why is this important? I know that all of you around this group probably do not need to be convinced that it is important, but how do you do it? And then we are happy to take some questions.
Great. So I'm going to start us off by talking a little bit about context and recent changes and challenges in higher ed. So first of all, we know that tuition consistently has been rising, has been on the rise, even as state funding has been on the decline. A lot of the tuition increase burden goes to students and their families. And so in 2020, there was $1.6 trillion of student debt. So just to put that in context, that means that this was second in debt only to mortgages. And while with a mortgage, you have this collateral, which is a home, there's increasing skepticism about the value of higher education. So this is a new and sort of urgent phenomenon. And students and families are considering higher education as career advancement, first and foremost. This is also something that's pretty new. Finally, and related to these points, prospective students and their families want clear answers and succinct language about their return on investment. Why should I pay this tuition? Why should I send my child to your institution? What's the point, right? And so I mention all of these things because we felt as though transferable skills and the work on transferable skills was a good tool to start to address some of these issues.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So what we started to think about with transferable skills, with how we were changing career, we first needed to really evaluate how we were doing career, how we were talking about it. And we realized that when we talked about career, when we were career Office of Career Services at Ohio Wesleyan, we were really waiting on the student to come to us and kind of raise their hand. So the onus was all on the student to actively say, hey, I think I need to start thinking about careers. And as all of you know, I'm kind of looking around the group here who has their pictures on, you would get those seniors who are in their second semester and they were like, oh my gosh, I'm actually going to graduate. I got to think about this. So we said, you know what, this is not working. We really need to think this through. And so we came up with a plan to completely redefine how we were even thinking about how we were thinking about career and setting our students up for success. So we wanted to become this woven into the fabric career idea or identity across campus. And how do you do that? You start having partners with athletics. So you start talking to your coaches. You start integrating career discussions from the moment that students get on campus. So no longer are we waiting for students to come to us. We're going to them immediately. And a big part of that is because, as Marianne just said, we need to say from the very moment they get on campus, you made the right investment by being here, because by the work that you're going to do with us and how it's incorporated in your curriculum, your return on investment is going to skyrocket. It also has helped students then sustain their time here, so we retain students better because they have this whole understanding of how every single part of their life on campus, whether it's in the classroom, outside the classroom, is going to add to their marketability, to their ability to land a job, to get into graduate school. So these are kind of the steps that we changed. So this is how we feel that we are very different from our old model and from other models. We're the nexus of all career activity. It is not just happening in one office here. It's happening all over campus. We are beginning to be woven into the curriculum, and Marianne's going to really dive into how we are doing this. We are removing financial barriers, so removing access and other barriers that so many of our students experience. And we've made very strategic partners. So the star is right by academic affairs, because I will tell you, we had been working with these other groups until we started working with academic affairs, and really, Marianne, we weren't getting as far as we really needed and wanted to go. Once we started building those relationships and started working together, things have really snowballed in a beautiful, powerful, impactful way. Definitely working with athletics, and then also Greek life, where we're working in the requirements, working with career into the Greek time here on campus. And then we also realized that career needs do not stop when a student gets their diploma. Just like the education that they're getting here doesn't stop, it continues to build and grow after they're an alum. We really beefed up our career for our alumni groups as well. So we're happy to share, because of this, we have been able to host 2 different workshops and then ongoing discussions. And Marianne's really going to dive into this about training our faculty to incorporate transferable skills into their courses. And we're going to talk about how we did this, what does it look like, and then here's some testimonials as well. We're happy to share that right around a quarter of all of our faculty have been trained in this type of incorporation, and it's having amazing impact. And we have definitely heard from others that it's kind of one of those where word of mouth gets out. So a faculty member is doing something and they really love it and they see the impact for their students, and then it keeps spreading from there. So I'm going to toss it to Marianne and she can share a little bit more.
Hello again. So I have to apologize. I have a cold and it's one of those really tickly coughs. So if I need to mute myself, that's what's happening. Okay, so I'm going to dive in with you guys and just let you know what we did and what we used to do it, right? So I'm going to talk specifically about 2 resources. The first was created by the National Association of Colleges and Employers, or NACE, and it's a document they release every year called the Top Attributes Employers Want to See on Resumes. And the second document that we used for the workshop was the transferable skills, what do you do well skills list published by the Career Services Office of the College of Education at the University of Texas at Austin. And basically these workshops were faculty development workshops to help train faculty to, first of all, think of their courses in terms of skills, not only in terms of content. So I know many of you are on the career side of campus. I am more so on the academic side, and I can tell you that when you're training, when you're going through that doctoral training, I mean, your lens and your sort of field of vision gradually becomes more and more deep and narrow. And so this is really a different way of thinking about the curriculum, to think about skills as opposed to just content. And so the way I describe the impetus here, I'll just read it with you here at the bottom of the slide, is the idea that there's profound and largely untapped opportunity to better train students. I'll just add, you have to train the faculty to train the students to tell their stories, articulate their content knowledge, and describe transferable skill sets in easily understood language to potential employers and institutions of higher learning, thereby increasing their potential to secure meaningful work. In other words, we faculty can do a better job training students to translate that classroom work to the context of professional settings, precisely by emphasizing skills and not exclusively content. And I'm going to come back to this idea at the end of the description of the assignment, because what we saw with the testimonials, many faculty were kind enough to share reflections that their students wrote in response to the assignments they developed. And so I have 70 pages of typed up testimonials. And what's amazing is that students and faculty alike were very eager to use this kind of language and to think about the work in the classroom in these ways. Okay, let's go to the next. Here we go. So this is a sample assignment, right? And it's really pretty simple. It asks students to think about skills. And so I just took them through the transferable skills, what do you do well document, and asked them to identify skills that were most important to them and skills that have been developed the most in one particular class. Once they've done that, and actually before I talk about what happens once they've done that, let me just tell you that when you look at these skill sets, these two documents, the NACE document and the University of Texas College of Education document, there's like sort of the light bulb goes off for people, for faculty and students alike. And they start to realize, hey, maybe this is a course on medieval literature. And yet it's also a course about learning to do rigorous research, learning to make an argument, learning to create a presentation, different kinds of presentations for different kinds of audiences and the like, learning how to negotiate difference in conversation and discussion, things like that. All of this starts to sort of click when you have these documents. They're really good springboards for this new kind of thinking about curriculum. Okay, so this testimonial, I'll read through the whole thing with you. And then for the others that follow, I'll just share with you those emboldened pieces that I thought were particularly poignant. So a student in Econ 110 writes, and I quote, "Within my first few weeks of the course, I understood that it was going to be the most difficult course of this semester. Asking for help was terrifying because I had to admit to others that even a perfectionist like myself was struggling. I had to work harder in that class than I had ever expected, but it paid off in the end because I learned to take initiative and admit that I cannot solve all problems on my own. I learned how to ask for help and what it really meant to earn an A." So this is a student who identifies the need to collaborate, who takes pride in the process of work as opposed to just the end result. This is someone who's resourceful, who takes initiative, and who ends on sort of a high note. So I love this. I love this testimonial. I think it speaks to not only skills, but also personal qualities. In a French course in which students do a lot of revising work and they come up with a portfolio at the end of the semester that they then present to the class. We have students talking about communication skills, of course, collaboration. They do a lot of small group work. They talk about learning to engage with problems outside of their comfort zone, paying attention to specifics of writing structure, style, and clarity, and then conclude with each of these skills is easily transferable to many industries and extremely helpful in many contexts. In music, so this was a music course that took students as a sort of culminating piece of the course, took students to New Orleans, where they engaged with various parts of the New Orleans jazz community. And, you know, some of these places were places that these students have never seen or even really knew too much about before taking the class. So there was a lot of emphasis on sensitivity and understanding about cultural issues, teamwork, organizational skills. They were real agents in the development of the trip and the itinerary. So they really were asked to take charge of the project. And then connecting ideas across multiple disciplines and integrating theory to practice. In politics and government, we have another student writing about progress in verbal communication skills, organization, and presentation. And then we also have this echo of working through difficulty, which comes up again and again in the testimonials. And then finally in Spanish, we have a student, of course, mentioning improving their Spanish, but also, once again, working in groups, helping to lead a team, using management skills for projects, and supporting other people to become their own leaders. And now I'm going to throw it back to Megan and have her talk about the roadmap idea.
You're muted, Megan.
Oh my goodness. Well, see, we are learning a transferable skill here of rolling and adapting. Sorry, my computer kind of froze up there. So hopefully you all can hear me now. But we wanted to say, okay, so yes, nobody's going to deny that these are so important and that they're so valuable. But how do you do it? Well, we put together this little 5-step roadmap, if you will. And the biggest thing is find a partner. So for all of you out there on more of the administrative or staff side, it really will be so key to your success to find a partner in the faculty. Find somebody who you can just go out and maybe share a glass of wine with and start talking about what you have an idea about or how you could help benefit students. I cannot tell you or emphasize more how valuable it was to have Marianne talking to her faculty members as a peer. It really hits home, and it also helps with, like Marianne and I have talked about, that there's different dialogue even between faculty versus parents or students. So we, between the two of us, often will talk about, hey, if we're sharing this with parents, we might need to word it this way. If we're sharing it with faculty, we might have to word it this way. So having that trusted partner is absolutely vital. And maybe that means you have to ask around or just start kind of talking about what you're interested in, and you'll start to hear some interest. Then map the connection between those transferable skills and the graduate skills. So you can use NACE as a great starting point. Often universities will have these skills that they want to make sure their graduates can really accomplish or have as core competencies when they're leaving. And if you can draw those connections, kind of connect those dots, you will be able to talk about it to other faculty. You'll be able to start talking about it to your students, to your alumni, to your prospective students. If you can draw that connection, it's going to help a lot. It also has helped for our faculty members to understand why adding a transferable skill assignment may help their class, because now they can articulate why that class is important to a student. So they can say, as Marianne was saying, look, when you take this class, you're not only learning Spanish, but you're learning how to work in a team or overcome some differences, those types of things that really hit home with students. And then once you've done 1 and 2, now start continually engaging with academic partners. Maybe it is putting on a workshop. Maybe it's just having a conversation in your faculty and staff dining room. Maybe it's just sharing successes. We learned that as this started happening, we were able to gather the testimonials. We were able to start the ball rolling, and people wanted to share. They wanted to collaborate. We've seen it really grow over just the short period of time that we've been doing this. And then share successes. Make sure that you are screaming this from the mountaintops. Talk to your university communication. Talk to your social media people, talk to faculty, make sure that your president and senior leadership team know what's going on, because these are great things. They're going to help with admissions. They're going to help with retention, going to help with just success of your students and your student and faculty satisfaction. So make sure that you're sharing the great work that you're doing. Yep. So, Marianne, you want to take this one? I know this is
sounds good. Yeah, and before I take this, I just want to add a real commendation for Megan and her office, because another piece of the innovative part of Career Connection that renders it unique from a lot of other career offices is that there's an emphasis on introspection, right? So before a student goes to apply for an internship, they really need to think about who they are, how they thrive, what they're good at, what are sort of the ingredients in the soil that are going to allow them to grow and thrive. And that takes time. And so all of this is sort of woven into the workshops, and then also the faculty work with students. So in conclusion, I want to pose a question that I think is often used by faculty members, which is this: is our work with students relevant and useful? This is a good question. I think there's a better question. So here's my proposal for a better question. How can our work with our students be even more relevant and useful? And how can we tell the stories of what we're doing in higher education to reach those, and here I'm thinking of lawmakers, parents, prospective students, trustees, etc., those who most need to understand it.
So powerful, Marianne.
And I do believe that our work becomes even more relevant and useful when it considers what will happen when the student concludes her last assignment, closes that final classroom door behind her, and moves ahead to work and or further her study. We must think beyond the classroom. The transferable skills assignment helps us take that crucial first step. So thank you everyone for listening. We're going to share some acknowledgements of many of the people who not only participated, but also shared the results of their students' work. And we're happy to take any questions you might have.
Let's see, we have some things in the chat. Let's see here. I'm actually going to stop screen share just so we can all see each other and answer a few more questions a little bit better that way.
So somebody asked if there's an updated NACE document. There is. Give me a second and I'll look for it and post it in the chat.
So there was a question about if this was going to be recorded. It is. And then also we have a link here that everybody can go to find the slides that we've used today. And on the very last slide, you will see our email addresses. If you have any questions or want additional information, please, please, please reach out to us. Let's see here. So we have a question. Do faculty link their course learning objectives to transferable skills in their syllabi, or is it more up to students' interpretation? That's a great question.
That's a great question. So, excuse me. The faculty, some of them did do that and some of them did not. I think for some courses, it makes more sense than it does for others. So we really left that up to the faculty. And what was nice, so I don't know if we mentioned this or not, but we had one initial workshop in August of was that 2019?
Oh,
I think so. It seems, wow. It seems like it was 2 weeks ago, but anyway. And then we had another one in January of 2020, I believe. And so what we did was we asked some of the faculty who had already developed an assignment. So they all, during the course of the workshop, they all developed an assignment that they then used during the semester. And from that first workshop, some of them came back to the second workshop and said, hey, here's what I did. Here are the outcomes. Here's what I would have done differently. Here's what worked well, et cetera. So that was super useful to have for the second iteration.
Absolutely. And I think too, we have a question about how did we get the faculty to buy in to make this part of their course? Marianne had really smartly worked in a section of time into the workshop to build that assignment. And I think that if we had not done it, so if we had been more in theory of why is this important? How can you? That kind of thing, it probably would not have been truly incorporated as much as it was. But because we had this time where they could collaborate, they could work independently, they could work together, it really gave them the time to think it all through. And I think that really, really helped. And then also, as Marianne said, having the faculty come back who did it, that really helped because then we got to really hear in practice, how did this work? Then we have another question. The assignment involves students assessing themselves on a particular skill. Did faculty also assess students on this skill in a formal way? If so, was there alignment?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the answer is yes and no. So yes, the students obviously did assess themselves. My recollection from the majority of the assignments that I looked at was that the students were essentially graded and assessed based on the specificity and level of reflection in their reflection papers. I don't know that I saw examples of faculty assessing students on a particular skill. However, that could easily be incorporated into something like an assignment that maybe has something to do with a rubric. So I could see a version of that absolutely being incorporated.
And I think it does open the door to further discussion. So I'm sure that if a faculty member did receive a reflection that, on a self-assessment, somebody said, I am exceeding all, levels or, measurements, and it really wasn't, there probably would be a discussion of, hey, let's talk about this and where might there be some areas of growth, So our faculty are really engaged with our students, and so I could see that happening very, very naturally. All right, so I see, and we have 2 minutes left, and I know we have a very hard stop, so this might be our last one, but please email us. I see that you provided lists of transferable skills to get student thinking. Did you create those or use another resource such as NACE?
Yeah, so we used NACE. We also used the document I mentioned earlier from the University of Texas Career Education. And interestingly, during both faculty workshops, certain faculty members took it upon themselves to adapt those lists to their own disciplines. So for example, there's a professor in the natural sciences who came to me when she was working on developing her assignment for her class. And she said, when I think about what science does at its best, what the real goal is, there's an element of just slowing down, observing the world around us, and asking questions and wondering. Now, how do you articulate that as a distinct skill is a little tricky. She worked on it. I can't remember the language exactly that she came up with, but I share this just to illustrate the fact that there are going to be, that these documents are a springboard more than anything else. They get us going. I wouldn't say that they are exhaustive, and I think that they are a good place to start.
Absolutely. We constantly have that discussion where we match the NACE core competencies and then this larger list to all of the programs and all of the events that we're doing just across campus. So I know I just saw Ari pop up, so I know our time is done.
Well, thank you so much, Megan and Marianne. This was great to hear. So our next session is actually immediately after this one. So if you want to stick around, you're welcome to, for the case for practitioner research in career services. Just be patient with me for the passing of the torch, so to speak, for just one moment.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.